What if Gwen Stacy became Deadpool? It's an interesting question, but that's not what this video is about. We're talking about Gwenpool. Hi, I'm Nando, and in this series, I take a character from Marvel Comics. I talk about their history, their power set, their personality, give you some reading recommendations. And that is all because this week, this character is being introduced into the collectible card game, Marvel Snap. So if you've always wanted to know about this character, that's the first 80% of the video. Snap stuff is the last 20%. Okay, so on the surface, if you just look, you're like, oh, I get it. Gwen Stacy Deadpool, sure, because they did Spider-Gwen and this is Gwenpool. Yeah, that's kind of it. I would say Gwenpool probably has the weirdest, not necessarily in-universe origin, but just the weirdest, like, how this character came to be story in comics in a while. Because you would assume that thing I said, she's a Deadpool variant of Gwen or a Gwen variant of Deadpool or something. What happened was, okay, so Spider-Gwen, very popular. Marvel decides to do a series of variant covers where every character gets Gwenified. So like Iron Gwen, or I want to say Spider Gwen, but I already did that one. I'm just trying to name any Marvel character. Wolver Gwen or something like that. One of them was a Deadpool book, so that issue had a cover with a character on a chair floating in the middle of a pool named Gwenpool. And that was it. But people like this. And none of the other members of these variant covers, like this was not originally the plan. Apparently, according to Christopher Hastings, who would eventually write the character, this was something that because fans thought this design was fun, or thought the idea of a Deadpool with this vibe could be fun, whatever it was about this character, that kind of willed her into existence. So she shows up for the first time in an actual comic book in a Howard the Duck book, in like a back half of the issue, in a story that will get expanded upon later. So first important thing, this character is called Gwenpool. That is not because she is Gwen Stacy or Deadpool. This character's actual name is Gwendolyn Pool. So Gwenpool is just a portmanteau, like a shortening of that to a superhero name. She has no relation to Gwen Stacy or Deadpool. She's hung out with Deadpool sometimes because they're kind of similar, and you'll see sometimes these characters can be written somewhat interchangeably. Sometimes she does feel like a female Deadpool, but I would say when she's working as a character, she's doing something very different. She comes from a universe, or at least thought she came from a universe. That part has been retconned a little bit, but let's go with her canon backstory in the beginning. She came from a universe much like ours, although obviously because it's from comics, technically not ours, but there were no superheroes in this universe. There were just comics that Gwen read. So Gwenpool, like Deadpool, has a sense of comic awareness. Like She-Hulk does, she can kind of knows what's going on. She knows they're in a comic book, and she has some level of like perception that the average character does not. But the big difference here, Deadpool's comic awareness sometimes presents as almost omniscience, right? Because he knows everything. He can break the fourth wall. He can do whatever. Same way that She-Hulk can like break the fourth wall of the Disney Plus and go out and talk to the writers. Gwenpool originally was not that. It was just, what if someone from outside of this universe got dropped into the universe? And she doesn't have superpowers, but she kind of knows how comics work. So she can kind of say, well, I'm probably not going to get killed in this page because that's not when you would kill a character like me. I'm going to survive. She can play with those tropes. And on the other side, and this is very important, she knows things about the Marvel Universe. She has read the comics, so she knows all the secret identities. She knows characters' deep, dark secrets, things that you would only know if you read the book. However, she's not like an encyclopedia of this kind of stuff. If she's not read the books with a character in them, she's not going to know what their secret identity is or their power set or any of that. So I'd say that's maybe the most interesting thing about the difference between Gwenpool and Deadpool. How she got to the Marvel Universe, it wasn't incredibly clear, but she just showed up. So like I said, her first story comes in a Howard the Duck book where she steals a virus from Hydra and Black Cat. And it's interesting because at this point, Gwenpool does not realize that like the world she's in exists. So she does not believe that if she kills a character, it's like she's killing another human being. It's like if she was killing a comic book character that doesn't exist. However, eventually with the help of Howard the Duck, Gwenpool would come to accept this reality as one where the people who she kills did exist. Afterwards, Gwenpool received her own solo series, in the beginning of which she got a job as a henchman for MODOK, the leader of an organization called MODOK. It was the Mercenary organization dedicated only to killing. The other members of this team were Batroc the Leaper, Megatoni, and Terrible Eye. This might be the best Batroc book ever, not that he's in very many or any of the ones he's in really focus on him, but Batroc quickly realized that Gwen was not a superhero, so he trained her to become a better henchwoman. And that's important about Gwenpool. At this point, she doesn't have superpowers. She seems like she does because she knows a lot of stuff. She's able to get away with some crazy heists and schemes, but in reality, she is just a person. So MODOK grew suspicious of Gwen because she didn't have any records proving that she existed. She sought the help of Doctor Strange, who transplanted every trace of Gwen's existence from her home universe to this new reality. So like technically she now kind of was from here, but this backfired because then MODOK discovered that she was just a normal person with no real skills. MODOK confronts Gwen, tries to kill her. It doesn't work. Gwen manages to fend off MODOK with the help of Cecil's ghost, a friend of hers who was killed by the villain in the very first issue. To avoid making this video overly long, the middle of her story, Gwen leads the Mercenary agency, has a bunch of little team-ups, hangs out with Groot and Rocket Raccoon, Miles Morales, and the Champions. She's even part of the new West Coast Avengers that's organized by Kate Bishop, a character who we will see in next season of Marvel Snap. She dated Kid Omega when she was on the team. That's kind of interesting. And that is the book that Jeff the Baby Land Shark is from. In fact, one of the variants, you can see he is being held by Gwenpool because originally he was her pet. Her arguably most important arc comes at the end of this volume when her brother, who was also transported to the 616 universe, was contacted by various future versions of heroes to stop Gwenpool from becoming a supervillain. So to do so, they forced her into a pocket dimension similar to her original universe. However, over time, she developed full comic awareness. So she was able to break the fourth wall, go into the space between panels. She uses editorial notes to her advantage. And at the end of the book, she meets her future evil self and renounces that path. But that means that her series is over. And this created an existential crisis for Gwen because it's like, oh wait, if I'm not in this book, do I continue to exist? Am I popular enough to matter, or is this the last anyone will ever hear of me? A good version of Gwen from the future is basically like, listen, if people like you, you will continue to exist. If you make a positive impact on people, there will be more Gwenpool. And she was right. Gwenpool got another limited series where she grappled with the fact that she may not continue to exist in this universe, and she had to like stop herself from being canceled because that was the only way she could continue to exist. It's very meta, and a big part of the series is Gwenpool pulling the other versions of Gwenpool out of their original stories because they're all written kind of differently, and it's like they're all different sides of her. And this book ends with Gwenpool and Miss Marvel talking, and Gwenpool comes to the conclusion that she is a mutant. And it really is something she settles into. She's like, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe I have the power to warp reality, and that's what all this comic booky stuff is. And that's something that shows up later in life, so that would make sense. And you know what? That's as good of an explanation as I'm gonna get. Book's over at the end. Then she walks through a gateway into Krakoa and meets Wolverine because she is a mutant, and we're in the Krakoan era, so that is where the mutants go. And that's the end of that series. So canonically now, Gwenpool is a mutant who is from this universe and always was, even though it doesn't always seem like it was, but whatever. And her mutant ability, and this could change in the future too, was her comic awareness. I would say the most interesting thing Gwenpool has done since becoming a mutant is she had a mini arc in the Love Unlimited anthology line. It's fun, and in the same vein as some of her other stories are about her trying to remain relevant. In this one, she's like, oh, if I start dating a character who people liked and create like a fun romance, then I'll stick around forever. She dates a couple of characters, that doesn't work, and at the end of the book she comes to the conclusion that she is asexual and aromantic, and that's more or less the last we've heard of Gwenpool. So it seems to be that her superpowers are comic awareness via her mutant ability, and also that in general gives her the ability to kind of get through situations, you know what I mean? So I guess here's what it is. Let's say she has two like kinds of superpowers. There's the comic awareness that lets her sneak into a panel or something like that, and then it'll disappear. Use all of the design elements of a comic to her advantage. There's the other part. This is part of her background originally as coming from a different universe where she just knows everybody's secret identities and stuff. And she's able to use that to get through tough situations. I would say those two together are her superpowers. She has a bunch of weapons. She like kind of like Deadpool. She'll pull out, you know, a rocket launcher, a machine gun or whatever. But outside of what she learned from Batroc, she doesn't have any really extensive training, and she doesn't have any, you know, advanced physiology superpowers. Like she can't do 50 million backflips unless she knows that the book lets her or something like that. Personality, she's pretty friendly, very out there, much like a Deadpool would be expected to be, although she's not just like Deadpool. And she even says this in one of her books. She's like, I don't really know Deadpool stuff super well because I don't really read the Deadpool books. It's all that LOL random humor that didn't really vibe with her. So she is very much supposed to be like a stand-in for the reader. I would say in general, she's supposed to be liked. She's less grating than Deadpool, although different characters react to her differently. But I would say a lot of the ways that Deadpool is constantly annoying, if like a character just meets Deadpool for the first time, a lot of the times they'll just go like, ugh, okay. Gwenpool's a little bit more earnest, and that works to her advantage as a character that just isn't incredibly annoying. One other thing that's interesting, her name is Gwendolyn Poole. Her costume kind of looks like a Deadpool costume. It's a coincidence. She got it from a person who had extra costumes lying around and was like, that one's good. No pants and no boots, and then just that'll be your costume. And that's what she went with. But it is not at least within the writing of the universe, she did not intentionally seek out a Deadpool costume or decide that that was going to be her deal. As far as reading recommendations, both of those solo Gwenpool comics I talked about are good places to start. The first one is The Unbelievable Gwenpool that started in 2016. It was written by Christopher Hastings and art by Danilo S. Beyruth and G. Guruhiru. It's a longer story too, so there's plenty to get into. I would say this is generally agreed upon to be like the best Gwenpool story. I think it's very funny. The art is great. It's got a very crisp look to it. And yeah, she's constantly bumping into other characters. You get a sense for like how she feels about her place in this universe and also how she feels about the rest of this universe. So I don't know, I like that book. The other one, Gwenpool Strikes Back, came from 2019. It's written by Leah Williams with art by David Baldion, Jesus Albertov, and GC Joe Caramagna. It's also fun. This is actually the first Gwenpool book that I read. I would recommend reading them in the order that they were released in. So read Unbelievable Gwenpool before Gwenpool Strikes Back. The big benefit to Gwenpool Strikes Back is it's just shorter. So if you can only read 5 issues and you want to finish something, then it's that. But the thing about Gwenpool Strikes Back is it does kind of rely on you knowing what the other versions of Gwenpool are like. So I don't think it would be as fun as reading the other one first. In Marvel Snap, Gwenpool is currently a 4-cost 6 power, although I do record these a little bit in advance, so sometimes that changes. She has the on reveal ability, pick a random card in your hand 3 times, give +2 power each time. So the way she works, I'm not completely sure. It depends on how you read her text, and maybe this is a discussion that's already been had. My guess is she's going to select 3 cards randomly from your hand. Now, can that be the same card selected randomly 3 times? I don't see why not. I imagine it's just going to hit one, and then it's roll again, hit another, roll again, hit another, and each time that card is going to be bumped up by 2 power. Obviously, her biggest synergy here is with Sebastian Shaw, a character that I don't even think she's met. I would say there's not too many characters that she synergizes well with that I can think of off the top of my head that she knows. She doesn't synergize well with Miss Marvel or any of the champions, really. Like, she is a card, her deal is going to be she's going to power up cards that are in your hand. So same way as like Nakia, Okoye, and Fastos, powering up cards you haven't played yet. She's going to be good with Brood, an X-Men adjacent character. But yeah, like nobody on the West Coast Avengers. I wouldn't say she works particularly well with Kate, although she could power up the arrows and maybe that would be helpful. Doesn't work particularly well with Jeff, which is kind of a bummer. Works kind of poorly with MODOK like that, because MODOK just destroys all the cards in your hand. And obviously, there's reasons why you might want to do that, but like I think that's kind of fun. I'd say she works well with like Swarm. Like, I don't, she wouldn't be, no one would play her in a discard deck, right? But like bumping up your Swarms to 2/5 or maybe even 2/7, and then there's 0/7s. I don't know, that's handy. She works pretty well with Deadpool, which is not a surprise because Deadpool, you know, if you can power up Deadpool early and then destroy him, that gets doubled. So if you, like, let's say you hit all 3 random cards were Deadpool is now a 1/7. However, she's a 4-cost, so you're not going to be able to use her immediately. I imagine what this card is supposed to kind of be going for is Gwenpool has comic awareness, so she's able to read the comic and she's able to like use the editorial notes and use the cutters and stuff like that. And for that reason, she is able to, like, as a card, go into your hand and kind of help you out there. But it's kind of random because she's not very good at it. But it is like going from being a card on the board to affecting the cards in your hand does seem like it could be kind of a meta thing if it wasn't something like Nakia and Shocker, I guess, in the Evolve deck also did. Like, if the Nakia card did not exist and didn't play the way it does, this would be like, that would obviously be what they're going for. It's just like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be kind of a meta thing where she goes into the hand. But yeah, there's already plenty of cards that do that or do something like that. It seems like they're just trying to make a card that is generally pretty useful. And I do think there'll be a lot of decks that she slots very well into. You know, she'll look great with the Zabu. Playing her on turn 3 will be really helpful, depending on what kind of deck you're using. But yeah, you know, I see Gwenpool's being fine. She's a season pass card. They tend to try to make those work. Even Gilgamesh this season, who like wasn't working and nobody was playing, they bumped him up to a 5/9, like, and made him just incredibly useful. Because like that's how the season pass cards work. So I would imagine even if 4/6 isn't working, she'll, you know, they'll figure out a way to make Gwenpool usable. It is funny that she's part of the Deadpool season and she's not a Deadpool character. Like, technically, they've met, but like she's not, you know, like Hydra Bob is much more of a significant Deadpool character. I would say the real problem is there's a couple of Deadpool characters that are like significant Deadpool figures, but they're just not as interesting. I would say there are some Deadpool cards that you could make. I'm surprised. Like, I know this is Gwenpool. I guess I'm a little surprised this is not a Lady Deadpool or Headpool or Kidpool or Dogpool or any of the Deadpool variants, because we've seen different versions of that where like a version from one universe and a version from another universe will technically maybe be the same character, but they'll get different cards. The Spider-Mans are the best example, but there's others. But it's kind of weird that they did just go with that. Like, I don't even know if Lady Deadpool is going to show up in the movie, but I would have to assume she might. I would say the only thing is Gwenpool is just a higher profile character than Lady Deadpool. Like, the fans really like Gwenpool. She has more opportunities for variants. I do think she'll have some fun variants. Let's look at some in the game right now. So right now, the only Gwenpool variant is the Pandart Season Pass variant, which is like a Season Pass, so it comes with the Season Pass. Awesome looking. I think Pandart does really cool stuff. I'm surprised that there's not more just already in existence, but I don't know. I like her base art. It's fun that she's on the moped. Yeah, I think the Pandart one is sick. Not sure who this cat is, but I like that she likes cats. That's always great. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, thank you so much. Subscribe, like. The other one is going to come up in like a day or two. That will be on Hydra Bob, the other card that's getting introduced this week, which should be fun. If you enjoyed these videos, like them, share them, and all that stuff, like message boards, subreddits, all that. If you're part of Marvel Snap, you know, you should make me a partner in the partner program. But hey, you know, we've been saying this for almost a month of videos. I haven't heard anything, so what are you going to do? I don't know. Nobody's perfect, I guess. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you guys next time.